start us off, give us an intro, and then you can tell, what you like to tell, and then we'll just go down the line. How's that sound?
Sure. So we are glad to be here in a very important, I would say, historical moment, both for the U.S. and also for Ukraine and for the future of freedom and democracy. We are in the moment when everybody is getting used to the war in Ukraine. But it's kind of the new normality. It's no more news story, but people are still dying. We have every day a lot of soldiers who are killed in action, who are wounded, and we have daily attacks from Russians on our cities in the south of Ukraine, in the eastern part of Ukraine, and also across all country. We are entering in a very dangerous season of winter in Ukraine, where our critical infrastructure, unclearly whether it will cope with new Russian attack or not, and it's clearly that Russians are preparing for attacking our critical infrastructure with the Shahed drones, with missiles, etc. And their plan is to freeze us to death. Didn't disappear, so it's still there. And we are very much concerned with the position of the American people and American government regarding continuous uninterrupted military support for Ukraine. So we are here to encourage members of Congress to support the package for financial aid for Ukraine, and first of all, military aid. And it has to be done on time, because every day of the delay in decision-making costs us human lives. And every day of the delay in providing weapons to Ukraine means that it will be much more expensive for American taxpayers to stop crumbling in the future. So veterans are coming. Some are coming straight from the front lines. Some are coming straight from the hospitals, like Andriana. Some are reforming our army to make sure that we are fully NATO operable. So this is the opportunity for them to give the update from those who are fighting this war. Where we are, what's happening with our counteroffensive, and how to finish this war, and the role of American weapons in all this.
Igor, you want to go next?
Yeah, so my name is Igor, and as Darina has said, we're here to share our perspectives on how the war is going and what it's like. I personally never thought I would end up in the army. I'm a lawyer by training. After the Revolution of Dignity in 2014, I enlisted, so to speak, to be one of the first anti-corruption investigators in a newly formed anti-corruption agency. We, in 2015, started to really combat high-level corruption in Ukraine. Ministers, members of parliament, governors, so on, previously thought untouchable. In a couple of years, proceeded to become an anti-corruption prosecutor. One of my last cases before the war was a record amount bribe of $5 million cash, purported to be given to the head of our office. Unfortunately, on the 24th of February 2022, the full-scale Russian invasion started. So it became clear that with the survival of the nation at stake, all of our previous work would not mean anything. I had to, with 1/4 of all my colleagues from the prosecutor's office, take up arms and defend basically rule of law and justice, not with a pen or paper, but with rifles and grenade launchers from terror. This is also personal for me, not only about survival of our nation, but also the fate of our friends, family, neighbors. My mother was in occupation in a small village nearby Kiev for a month. We didn't have any contact with her. They, with my grandmother, were hiding in a basement for all this time. And after the liberation of the village, it came up that the Russians were torturing and killing civilians. In several bodies were found in a nearby village, nearby forest. So it constantly reminds me about the fate of our compatriots who are still in the occupied territory, and why we have to fight for, not for the territory and soil, but for the people who are still there. And that is the reason we are fighting for the freedom of our people and for the security of the whole Eastern Europe and stability of Europe. And for this help to be effective, we need American leadership and American weapons.
My name is Roman Tyczkiewski. Prior to full-scale invasion, I was the CEO and co-founder of Ukraine's largest youth leadership movement called Ukrainian Leadership Academy. When the full-scale invasion began, the need to secure the students, the staff members, the family was urgent, and once it has been done, I joined the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Never fought before, never been in the service before, but definitely have this spirit of freedom inside me, which was engraved inside of me by my parents, by people I was brought up. I'm very happy to be in the US today, because I'm not new to the US, although the US is not new to me, because I spent 1 year in Wichita, Kansas as a high school student within the Future Leader Exchange program funded by the US government. And this was actually the first time when I've met Ukrainian Marines who were on the training in the US, in Pensacola, Florida. And since then I thought, if there will be a chance to join the Armed Forces of Ukraine, it will definitely be Ukrainian Marines. And unfortunately, under given circumstances, I finally realized my dream. And why unfortunately? Because people who love freedom, we are to fight against brutal terror that was brought up on our homeland by Russia. And of course, the desire to build the better Ukraine, to build prosperous Ukraine, to build free country is in our veins. We are the generation that was basically born on the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union. We don't want to live in something that Russia is trying to put upon us. We want to move forward and be part of the civilized world. So fighting within Marines gave me more strength, and especially understanding that the Black Sea security, the Black Sea in general is essential part not only for Ukraine's freedom, it's also essential for food supplies globally. It's essential for industrial supplies globally, and Marine Force being a key force in protecting coastal lines etc., is extremely important to make sure Ukraine stops bleeding by actually continue losing its export of grains and all the products it can manufacture around the globe, and avoid these crises in any parts of the globe, especially Africa, Middle Asia, etc. So I'm here in the US today to speak up about the need of further partnership between Ukraine and US on protecting the freedom all over the world, especially where we see people fighting for it, dying for it, and not just because we want to have normal life for us. We want the world to be stable, grow, and be prosperous. And we just want to make our own contribution to it, as we used to do. And we know for sure we can do more. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Petro Koshukov. I'm a citizen of Ukraine and father of 3. My older son joined the army along with me. Soon after the full-scale Russian invasion, I had almost no previous history of serving in the army, except for the very, very end of the Soviet Union. I was forcefully drafted to the Soviet army. It was so long time ago, and I hated it. That was actually the time when I realized I hate the Soviet Union as a system, and I remember myself being a youngster that felt really disadvantaged, so to speak, comparing to the rest of the free world, the guys who were born in other countries. So that was kind of a source of our, willingness to change the country. And back then, right after I was released from the Soviet army, I joined the Ukrainian youth movement for independence and for freedoms in Ukraine. Since then, I was the participant of all Ukrainian revolutions. Professionally, I became a part. I almost for my entire life I worked in the international development in my region, in Eastern Europe mostly in Ukraine, but also in the other countries, neighboring countries, Eastern Europe and Caucasus. Never thought I would be doing military, anything to do with the military. In fact, lots of things changed in 2014. It changed my career a little bit because I felt that I can be useful in media and communications, and I became part of the. I started working for international media. I helped producing news and stories from Ukraine because I felt it's important back then, right on Maidan. And after that, I went to Crimea and then to Donbass, and I was part of the international media teams that covered the development of the Russian invasion for on and off, actually, 2014 and 15, almost full time, on and off from the war zones. That was the time actually when I realized I'm doing okay in the hostile environment, and I even thought, maybe I'll join the army, but I wasn't sure if I'm personally ready to take arms and kill people. But that question On the 24th of February, I kind of closed that question for myself. I decided that I can and I will. Soon after the Russian invasion of 2022, I joined the Special Operations Forces. I served in the Special Operations Forces and then transferred to the Airborne Assault. I'm mostly doing now the everything related to the unmanned air vehicles and drones. My elder son, who is with me, is the FPV drone operator. And recently I was commanded to the General Staff's department in charge of the drones. And I'm also doing some, I'm participating in the projects under the reform, support of Reforms Office under the Ministry of Defense. I'm here also to bring the message of how important it is for us to have common understanding and assistance and cooperation with the United States. I see a lot of problems that we can solve together. I think it's very important for not only for us it's a matter of survival, but for the United States, I believe it is the matter of also being a leader, a country that can demonstrate leadership and get on the edge of technological new warfare and be part of it and invest in this not only with its resources but also with kind of emotionally. Also it is important to understand that our own, like as my colleagues had mentioned, we are in Ukraine and in the army to win this war. There is no way we are going to negotiate or surrender, because it's the matter of freedoms and lives of our countrymen. Millions of them are currently endangered and they're on the occupied territories. We just can't leave them over there. It's not about the land. My relatives reside on the occupied territories and I communicate with them quite often. My cousin who lives in the city of Berdyansk, when we start talking, she starts crying on the approximately third minute of our conversation every time I talk to her. We need to win this war, and I think I believe we can do it together with the whole civilized world, the free world, people and nations that respect human rights, freedoms. They believe in free societies as the best environment for human beings, something like that.
So, my name is Andriana. I was not born for war and for army, but I was born with a great value of freedom. I was an activist of Revolution of Dignity. Before Revolution of Dignity, I built a great career, like a brand manager of a Japanese company in Ukraine. And my war started in 2014. After Revolution of Dignity, I joined Armed Forces of Ukraine as a volunteer. It was Aidar Battalion Aidar. I liberated Luhansk region on that period of time, took part in 8 combat operations. But I was a seamstress by the documents. In fact, a sole trooper by the documents, a seamstress. And after demobilization, because I gave birth to my son, after demobilization, we, together with other women veterans, create Ukrainian Women Veterans Movement, the only organization in Ukraine that consists of women veterans or service women for women veterans and service women. Together with other activists and according to advocacy campaign Invisible Battalion, and also with support of the West, we changed legislation. We opened 63 combat positions for women in 2018. And after demobilization, I visited the West, the NATO. I always said that Russia will not stop. Russia wants a big war because it's a country that just can't live because of war. And in 2022, I again joined the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Now I am a Special Forces Weapon Sergeant. I can compare combat operations of 2014 without American weapons and combat operation of 2022 with American and other West modern weapons. Like my husband also is a serviceman. Our godparents of my son also are servicemen. Some of them are not alive because in 2022 I lost a lot of my friends. And for example, in 2014, during 3 months of combat operation, I lost more than 100 friends. So this war became like a live film for me. And I'm an actor of this war. I liberated Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Kherson region. Last year, I was in the United States to ask for Abrams and other ammunitions because we were on the position that we need to liberate the South first because people on occupied territory survived and couldn't live for the winter. So we liberated Kherson region, and on the 1st of December, I blew up on Russian anti-tank mine. 9 months I was in rehabilitation center because I had a bullet trauma. As I was in civil car, it's just ordinary car because we didn't have enough Humvee on that period of time for driving. And now I'm going again to join armed forces after rehabilitation to liberate other lands, to liberate Crimea and Donbass. And now I'm here to say thank you for American weapons, to say how we use, how modern weapons help us to liberate territories and what we see on the after liberation. And that I'm here to say that interruption of supporting us means a lot of lives, because as I demine Kherson region by my body, other my brother in arms and sister in arms demining the land with their bodies. But I'm lucky because I am alive now. It's like a miracle, but I'm alive. And the south of Ukraine now is minded as a hell. That's why the counteroffensive is not so fast. And we also don't have air superiority. That's why we can't do counteroffensive as fast as we've done in Kharkiv and in the right band of Kherson region. We are lack of ammunition, as for example, on the south during counteroffensive we used, for example, 200 mines, and Russians uses just 2,000. That's why I'm here, because this time means time means people that we've lost, and the situation now is this winter will be as strong, as hard as last winter also. And people on occupied territory, they are survivor. We had a lot of children kidnapped by Russia. Our president said that it's more than 20,000 now. And our army is not endless. But Russians' army are without number. They sent their soldiers as much as possible, and we try to protect our land, to liberate, but we saw again new people, new Russian soldiers. So the question for me now is when Ukrainian soldiers will not be alive, who will protect freedom against Russian's army? Europe soldiers, United States soldiers, who will protect freedom for my son? Thank you.
Also, earlier I was joking about Wichita, but it's actually not that big of a joke. As you know, President Biden supports aid, has proposed further aid for Ukraine. The Senate, both the leadership and the majority of the Senate support it, but the House is the issue. And those who oppose it are generally from what we might call flyover country, from places like Kansas and Indiana. So I was curious if the two of you could think back to the people that you met while studying here in the US. Maybe you're still in contact with them, I don't know. What would you say to them now, those people who vote for representatives who maybe are opposed to further aid to Ukraine? Is there some message that you would have to those people, those Americans that you used to know?
Go ahead.
Well, I carry the best memories from that time in my heart, and so I had been with the greatest host family ever, yeah. Tom and Vicky Buell. We spent a few months of my high school studies in Topeka, then Wichita, Kansas, where I graduated from Wichita High School East, participating in the field and track, in band, and in other great activities. So I felt like I was a bit an alien because not that many people knew about Ukraine. Right. So I did a lot of activities within my school to present the country. And I never felt anything that would tell me that people are against Ukraine. People were showing an enormous curiosity to learn more. And I think it's just a matter of giving people more information about what's really happening on the ground in the country. So because I know they are people with big hearts who cherish their freedom. They love their country, their nation, all the values that lays in the foundation of the United States. And I'm sure that's why this particular family and all related people that I somehow met during that year, they welcomed me because of that, because who they are. And I'm very proud that I carry some parts of the US legacy inside me. I don't want to come and live in the United States or be a burden to someone else in other country. I want to build the same free and successful and prosperous society in my country. When it goes to the Marines, I dream Ukrainian Marines be partners with the US Marine Corps and do the operations all over the globe in order to make sure that freedom prevails. People have choice. people can live their lives that they want to. So I would be happy to go down to Kansas and meet again and meet again and again and again, as someone who already been there and have a part of Kansas in my heart forever. That year was transformational for me. I shared this morning with my colleagues the story that the United States have supported Ukraine so much by investing in Ukrainian youth for years. So just imagine, I was one of 450 guys who back then came to the US to spend our high school studies here. And everyone was it spread it across the nation. But there were 10,000 kids or more willing to come to this program. So the context was quite tough. And so it happened.
I didn't pass twice. You took my place.
Could be. Now we are here, thanks to you. So US has funded a lot, has invested a lot to make sure that us, a new generation, who is willing to build a new country, build a prosperous country. And let's say Ukraine is relatively a new country on the map after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And Russia has done a lot to erase our identity through centuries. But we are there. We are thriving despite all the difficulties. And everything I have learned in the US, I took back home in order to implement that in my university studies, in my civil activities, in other places I did. So as US helped us transform a young generation of Ukraine, I feel that the United States are to be the leader in transforming the defense and security effort of Ukraine in order for Ukraine to become a reliable partner in the nearest future to protect freedom in that part of the world. As we have been proven ourselves as freedom fighters. And I think there are not that many partners you can rely on in this chaotic in this chaotic world. And so I cherish that partnership, which starts from the host family in Kansas and goes to the US Marine Corps and definitely spreads across the nation of the United States. So when I really would like to go to Kansas, but I also invite people to come to Ukraine. It is war, but I definitely, if you cannot come physically, come virtually, read more in order to get as much information as possible.
Any notes from Indiana, Petro?
Yeah. That just reminded me my story of coming to Indiana for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, what is this place? I expected to see America a little bit different. But just because of this imperfection, I think it was one of the things that made me fall in love with the United States back then, and it's still there. That love is still there. I've seen the real, real America that is not a Hollywood movie, and it's a country of very good people that I met in Indiana and elsewhere I traveled. I was curious and lucky to have an opportunity to use every moment and every extra penny I had to travel around the country. And I did the largest trip of my life by car from east to west coast. And I observed how beautiful and diverse the United States is. It's like traveling along the country is like traveling through many, many different countries. I would probably, if I had a chance to talk to my friends from back then and from Indiana, I would tell them we're people that share so many similar aspirations for freedom, for the values that are probably most important for us. And when the time came and our country had been invaded by Russia, I lost it there a little bit.
Yeah, I just would like to add to what Petros said.
Yeah.
Again, I saw America on TV, and when I was going for 10 months to the US, which my first Atlantic flight ever in my life, and I was just 16. It was like going, well, with you didn't really know where you're going, but because of that, because of how great people are, they create this image. They show you what is what's really happening, and it's because of these hardworking, great people that I met throughout the year. I have these best memories from that time, and still get a lot of energy from those memories, because a lot of transformation happened to me. For instance, I got into the school that had a brand new gym, and I was on a field and track team, and I was just impressed by that. I said, well, one day we should build the same gyms in every school of Ukraine. And now we have schools being bombarded. Kids have no proper conditions to learn. And that's something that should not be happening in the 21st century. Thousands of kids are kidnapped by Russians just because they want to, which is sick, of course. And there's so many stuff that we can learn from you guys. And even talking about Wichita, I know there's so many stuff I would just copy paste, or I would just invite guys, come to Ukraine. You can't believe how big a difference you can make together with us to make sure that we make this frog lip into the future. And having said that, The Wizard of Oz has become favorite cartoon of my kids. Recently, Prime Amazon has released it, and they are now watching it non-stop for several times each series. And again, it brings me back to Kansas.
Can't believe we're not in Kansas anymore. Right?
Yeah.
So one of the things, thank you both for that. As someone who's also from flyover country, good to know that some people have fond memories of that. And have those connections. One of the words I've heard a lot is the new normal, or phrases I've heard is the new normal. And for you, it's very different from us. But here, we keep talking about these things. You're actually living this and experiencing it. And it seemed like a lot of the conversations about just we want to keep Russia out. We want to end this, right? And we keep talking about that. And I was curious if we could go beyond that. And could you just, anyone who wants, talk about how you imagine Ukraine after the war? Like what would you like to be fighting for in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years for your children and grandchildren? How do you imagine Ukraine in the future? That's just for anyone.
I don't think about Ukrainian future after war because the war is going on. Right. Of course, it's territory of 1991. Of course, it's people who are Ukrainians like coming home. Of course, it's like kids are coming home. And I think after we will rebuild Ukraine, and we will do everything by ourselves with reparation, with justice of war crime, with make Russia to pay. It's happy family, because my son, after 2 years of absence, me and my husband said, "Mom, you remember the time when we were a family and loved each other?" and he's just 8. I said him, we now are family and we love each other, but I don't want my son said me this. With traveling, with dream, because now I even don't have a dream. The dream is like a victory, only victory and only protect people and save people, because we've lost a lot. And that's all. Then we will rebuild, we will reform Ukraine, we build rule of law, because in a war you don't you don't have a chance to build a rule of law and other institutions, because in a moment they can be bombed. And people who are fighting for a rule of law and people who make this reform can be killed. That's why we don't have a stable time, and we need a stable time to make our country as blooming as possible. Because, as my brother-in-arms said, I was in the United States. It was the first time in 2007, and it was work and travel. My parents got a credit from the bank to send me here to practice my English. I had two jobs for 3 months in New Jersey, and it was my first trip abroad. It was a huge transformation, and after coming back home, I said, I know what is independencies, you know? I said my parents, you know that in United States, you feel that you are independent. But when I was a young girl, like a child, I saw this movie, Soldat Jane, and I can't even imagine that I will be this Soldat Jane in future. And I don't want to be a Soldat Jane. I want to be a mother, I want to be a citizen, I want to build Ukraine, I want to make some contribution to gender equality in Ukraine and to other that I deal with. But the time is that war is going on. We need to finish with war as fast as possible, and then we will just live and finish with other problems that are in Ukraine.
If I may add to that, I do consider myself a dreamer, and I dream a lot. I first visited the US in 2012, had a 2 weeks internship with a local judge in Utah, getting acquainted with how legal system there works. And one of the memories I do recall very vividly is how I suddenly realized while walking on a pavement in a small American city, how much easier it is to breathe here. This sense of freedom was almost palpable or physical. And I do sometimes watch American TV and see how frequently your politicians talk about how America is a beacon in the world, a shining city on the hill, how it is a leader of the free world. It is being repeated so much that probably for some of the public already lost its sense. But for us, outsiders, it is very clear. America does inspire. I've said we've started our fight for freedom and rule-based society in 2014. Since the Revolution of Dignity, I took part in it and was wounded, where on the last days of February 2014, police tried to disperse us. And I was wounded by a grenade. There is still a piece of metal in my back, and I had a backpack with a thick paper on the American Constitution in there, and it actually stopped one of the shrapnels from the grenade from going into my body. So it is very real for us, this inspiration of the America. And I myself dream of the free society, democracy, rule-based state after the war, in a NATO, so with a strong military for security for our people, an ally to the civilized West, where people have an opportunity to realize their possibilities and their potentials. We're here in a Marshall Fund. I was looking on the posters outside when we waited. It is about an effort by the US to rebuild post-war Europe. It was done, and the victory in the war was done by the, as you call it, the integrated generation. I also hope that the Americans nowadays live up to the heritage of greatness and do not forget who they really are. And they are the greatest nation and have responsibility to lead and help others in this fight for freedom.
I would say that it's hard to see the country while the future of the country while it's on fire. And again, probably we'll go back to my times in Kansas. The very special flower, I think, for Kansas and the states around is the sunflower, the crops in general. And sunflower became a symbol for Ukrainians as well, because these were the sunflowers were the first soldiers who faced the Russian aggression. When you will go now to the south of Ukraine or east of Ukraine, you will see a lot of fields full of crops, but burnt down by the precise targeting in order so that Russia is trying to take away our crops, our harvest, to make sure that not only Ukrainians are suffering, but the world is suffering. The food prices are going up, etc. And at the same time, I also remember how boldly, how vividly was the strong image of Kansas State in building airplanes, Airbus, Boeing, etc., huge industries located in that area. And I immediately reminded myself that, hey, Ukraine has built world's largest plane in the world. Its name was his dream, Mriya in Ukrainian, which was also destroyed by Russians. And I thought, hey, we have so many things to connect through agriculture, building planes, etc. Recently, I met an American, a son of a Second World War veteran, and he told me that, a magic happened to the United States after the veterans came back from the front line. We felt that we are a united nation because the army has mixed up everyone from every state. It's something that is probably the only feeling I want to cherish now within Ukrainian Armed Forces. Because of the war, we got united so strongly. And I hope once we win, and I believe we will win, we will be the country of reliable people. We will be able to face each other, face together any challenge that will be in front of us. But also, we will deepen relations with our partners. And as I hope, I do feel this feeling that I got from the colleague of mine who told me the stories about his father, American, participating in the Second World War. I do feel that in Ukraine now. And that also touches the topic of veteran care, etc., which we also would like to learn from the US how to do that. To the US, to the people of the United States, is like, we are in a similar position as you were many, many years ago, decades ago, when the world was on the edge. And today we are on the edge again. But the fight is happening in Ukraine, where freedom is fighting terrorism. And we do need your support in order to cope with that and build a better world together.
I want to add, maybe in Ukraine it's a joke that after war we will accept NATO army to Ukraine. You know, it's a joke. But after war, I hope that Ukraine will have a guarantee that this never happened again, like with nuclear weapon or something like that, because Ukraine gave their nuclear weapon, and Budapest Memorandum didn't work. So I think that after the war we will have guarantee. We are in NATO and we are a European country that are in family who protect.
After the war, you know, it's interesting, but when you're in the war, you like the memories of your country before the war is like your dream. It's like, oh, we lived so wonderfully. This country had developed so fast, and it was a kind of a dynamic, a vibrant process of you know, getting where we wanted, especially after the Revolution of Dignity in 2014. We went through the, you know, phase of a very, very dynamic change.
Drastic changes.
Drastic changes. You know, we basically killed the systemic political corruption in our country. We've changed so much. So if you look at this from the outside, we were in the process, so you don't notice, you know, everyday changes. But again, the current state, we are here in the middle of the war, and we're looking at this, what we managed to do. I just, myself, I want to be able to come back to that, to normal. I want to make sure that my younger kids don't have to fight for our country to survive. And I believe that everything we have done, not together, by the way, with the United States and other free countries of the world, can be converted into something really beautiful that can be an example even for our partners as well. There's a lot of things that they can learn. And by the way, in the process of this war as well, because we are now the place where the tragic things are happening, but also the testing field of how democracy and how can be preserved under these conditions and even developed further. We're fighting Russians, and we're fighting the remainings of corruption in our country as well. And our best qualities of our society, of our people, are now utilized and focused on the security. And we see how many innovations are just born out of it. And I think it's important for the United States and other countries that have resources and organizational capacity and tradition to help other countries and other people that share their values to join in and to win this war together. That's going to be a beautiful victory of in the civilized world and free world over the other, like evil forces that are still, unfortunately, rule very big parts of this planet. I have a dream of our country being a frontier of freedom and also the important part of a security, like a powerful force that is a proven force that can guarantee security of not only our country but also of the whole region.
Thank you for your answers. I actually had several others, but I think we're probably a little bit over time at this point. We can keep chatting. Maybe you can answer some more of my questions. Did you have anything you wanted to ask very quickly?
Yeah,
I think
actually,
maybe have.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are in America, and it's the country of democracy, the sample of the very bad, very great democracy. What democracy means for you, for all of you? You can say shortly.
For me, democracy is a respect for human dignity. Dignity because it means it matters what you think, and you have a say in how you're going to live. So it's really very basic, very personal. It's not about as much as about politics and such absurd things, but on a very personal level about respect for your dignity.
One's dignity, freedom are respected and those are protected. It enables the realization of the full potential of individuals and the society in general. And recently I had a conversation with some US colleagues, and they said, once US veterans came back from the Second World War, this was such an energetic people, energized, with a strong can-do attitude. They simply rocked this country with their initiative, with their efforts, and the US have received few presidents who fought in the Second World War. And I just thought to myself, well, I wish we get enough weapons from our allies in order to save as many veterans, as many servicemen and servicewomen as possible, because these people stepped forward. They joined the armed forces to protect the country. If they are willing to risk their life, how much they can achieve, how much we can achieve together in a peaceful time. And that would be, a very vibrant and dynamic environment. That would be the face of true democracy, which I believe everyone would like to invest in.
I'm a Christian, and in Christianity, the hardest task is to love your enemy. I'm trying to love our enemy, Russian Federation and the people of Russian Federation. And because of this love, I want them to lose this war. Because that's the only way for the people of Russian Federation to have future. Otherwise, they will be vanished forever. And for that reason, from the love to our enemies, we have to force them lose as soon as possible. And then my dream would be using all our successful rule of law tools, anti-corruption tools, then to spread them, across either Russia or across or newly established territories in Russian Federation of minority people or whatever will be there. If they will ask us to help, we will help them. I also hope that our victory, and I dream that our victory will give a chance for other nations like in Belarus, who are now occupied by Russian forces, and they are slowly being merged into Russia. They will have chance if Russia will lose. So I really want my two sons, I have 11 years old and 7 years old, I want them both to serve in the NATO army. So I'm very limited in time, I have just 7 years, when Ukraine will be fully interoperable member of NATO. So it's the maximum time limit for me. That's the future plan, that's a dream, that's a task, that's all together. Yeah, for that, no day of the delay of weapons supply to Ukraine. I'm pretty sure that Ukrainian Armed Forces will be one of the most technological, experienced, well-skilled army, not only in Europe, but in the world and in NATO. So we'll be a reliable partner to help the beacon of democracy and free world to protect these values. Because we know what does it mean to die for the values. We know the cost, we understand it, and I think that now the world needs some success when freedom wins.
Thank you. I think on that note, we'll draw things to a close. Thank you so much for coming, and I think we've given Ryan here a lot of material to work with. So,
Yeah.